Alright guys, Touchgrow back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and welcome to episode 26 of the Breaking Point podcast. We are live on Twitch for the very first time. It's phenomenal stuff. Thanks to all of those who are currently in the chat. Usually I do like a special Spotify segment, but I'm pretty sure we're just going to cut that out now and to try and, I guess, incentivize people to come on to the live show, because hopefully this will be fantastic to do it on Twitch going forwards. You guys can tune in live, watch it on YouTube after the fact, available on all the audio platforms as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts if Tim Cook allows, all that good stuff. Joined by Easy Mac and Lion Man. Going to be a fantastic show, talking all things CDL. Just love to see it. Lion, how are you doing? Good morning. It's well, it's not too bad for you actually.
Yeah, it's 9:15, just chilling. Had to get up here and talk to the people a little bit, regular podcast, and then I got work as per. How about you, AO?
Doing good. Just finished the first practice, and yeah, watching it on my second monitor now. So just getting ready for the next week of matches.
You're watching scrims while we're live, just to keep it going. Wow, impressive.
Time zones for you, man.
Yeah, top quality analyst, Justin, paying all the attention in the world, but we love him for it certainly. And well, not too bad when you're having 6-0 map count weeks. So before we get into the matches, a fair bit has happened. First of all, announcement of fans returning. I don't think we got to discuss that last week. For the Stage 5 Major, there's going to be fans there. We're not sure how many fans there's going to be, not sure exactly on the regulations, not sure if the fans are going to be able to get anywhere close to the players, right? Because we saw some behind the scenes stuff at the previous major, and like everyone was kind of very set back from the stage. So whether that's the case again remains to be seen. However, still great news, right? Especially because I'm sure the OpTic guys are pretty happy about it. Yeah, throw it to you, Austin. Thoughts? Excited?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. I think based off of the Overwatch one that just happened this past week, I think they had half capacity, so that's 1,250. And in the venue that they're at, if they pack them all up front, it's going to get pretty loud. So it's actually really exciting to have fans back and being able to actually have like that LAN environment, because even though we were on LAN for the last one, it probably didn't feel like LAN to a lot of the players because you don't have like the yelling and screaming. It just feels like you're just playing at a different venue than your house, but it's not too much has changed. So now the pressure is really on, and it's just one of those environments that the players definitely missed.
Yeah, and they're going to be at the esports stadium again, right?
Yeah.
It was the same one in Arlington, yeah.
Yeah. That'll be dope. I actually think we did touch on this last week, but
yeah, maybe we did, because I was just thinking maybe we talked about a Thursday, Friday, like it was gonna, it wasn't gonna be too much.
Because it's just a Saturday, Sunday.
We talked about how everyone had to wear face masks and how some people. Did you see some people were already like annoyed about that, wearing face masks?
Like, I mean, I don't know, like what the rules are.
People will complain about anything, bro. It's like at least we have LAN back with fans. Just enjoy it. Wear a face mask.
Be like for champs,
vibe. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think it will be the same rules for champs, won't it?
Well, it's in LA, so I know what they're going to do. I have no idea what's going on, but it's cool to see regardless. Actually, speaking of champs, perfect segue, as is tradition here at the Breaking Point podcast, the best Call of Duty podcast you're ever going to find. We're trying our best. Discussion about the format, right, for champs, because two teams are going to start in losers. This was confirmed this past week. August 19th to the 22nd or whatever it is officially confirmed as the date. So slightly earlier than last year. Doesn't seem like they're doing the whole 2-week thing. Like before they had the whatever it was, like the playoffs week or something, and then they had like the championship weekend. Doesn't seem like that's I guess because they had the 12 teams that they had to do that. This time there's only 8 teams, but 2 teams starting in losers caused quite a lot of controversy, because from my perspective, if you've like got over the line to be a top 8 team in the league, you probably deserve a fair shot at the tourney, because like from my perspective, if you're starting in losers, it might as well just be chalked for you. The bracket is going to be an absolute bloodbath. I don't see a team starting in losers getting more than 2-3 rounds deep. I mean, even that would be a challenge. So there's a massive fight right now for the 6th seed. I thought maybe they could have just done the bracket, and obviously they want to benefit like the 1st and 2nd seeds or whatever, but I was just like hoping to see a bracket with the 8 teams, Austin, where I don't know, maybe they do 2 groups of 4 or something, and then like the seeding has some implication, but it's not. I kind of knew it would be the same buy as last year, but I was kind of hoping it wasn't, in the sense that maybe you just have a straight up 8-team double elimination bracket where 1 plays 8 and 2 plays 7 or whatever, or you do some sort of groups into a bracket or something. But as we have it right now, FaZe and whoever gets seconds are going to have the 1 round bye. They only require 3 series again to win champs, even though basically just playoffs at this point, which, I think a lot of people are kind of frustrated about.
Yes, so I mean the format's not great, but the battle that the League Ops is having is they want, because this is playoffs. People can call it champs. It's really not champs. It's the CDL playoffs. So the problem is now champs is gone just because of franchising. So right now, like, the battle is rewarding the teams that do good enough in the regular season and punishing the teams that didn't improve during the season. So I 100% agree with only 8 teams at the event. It does suck that two teams are in losers. I probably would have liked to play in as well, because what they could have done is 12 and 11 play each other, the winner, and then do 9 and 12 play each other, and then 10 and 11 play each other, and then the 2 winners face each other, and then whoever wins that faces off against the 8 seed, and then whoever wins that is the final team in. Just so you still have a chance to make it. So teams just don't give up at the end of the year, which is probably what's going to happen now. But yeah, I mean, I still don't think you can do at like 1 versus 8, because you're not rewarding the teams that, because people forget, like, these majors are the regular season. You kind of got to reward the teams that do well during the regular season. So what really sucks is that we don't have an event after. I would rather we have a World Cup style event, because that would be the way to get around the franchising, because you could just have like amateurs in the World Cup teams and do it that way, and have like this massive World Cup event right after. So we still have like a champs-esque, like a post champs era. We can call this the World Cup, and do that, because I think that would I think then you would have a massive money-wise tournament, the playoffs, and then you would still have like this huge end-of-the-year tournament, like World Cup. So you kind of get some of what the champs used to be. You get like a mixture of it. So players will still have something to play for at the end of the year, and then fans will still have that massive tournament at the end of the year. So I think that would be a better compromise than what we currently have.
For sure, having a World Cup would be dope. Just because it's brand new as well, I think the viewership would actually take a huge bump. Just seeing all these different countries competing for these teams, and even having countries like Australia, maybe New Zealand, like countries that don't compete in the CDL, like having teams there to play. What you said about 1 versus 8 seed and like playoffs, I think that would be good, having like all 8 teams in the winners bracket, just because it means that FaZe has to win, or like FaZe is probably going to win, but like FaZe or whoever ends up winning the tournament actually has to win at least 4 series. And then having that play-in tournament, the winners of that start and losers as like the compromise for not being, top 8 during the season. I think being 1 seed versus 8 seed to start the tournament is actually a fair compromise for the whole season, because on paper, 1 should beat 8 naturally. But who would that be right now? It'd be Florida versus FaZe, wouldn't it?
Yeah, now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is a pretty hard first matchup, but I don't know. That depends. I think they really kind of may have missed a step there by putting 7 and 8 in losers, just because, I don't know. I think they deserve to be in winners.
Counter argument, though,
Go on, Austin.
by not doing that, they actually created more storylines for this next event, because right now everyone is battling for this 2 seed, and if they were just doing that 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, it wouldn't matter this next stage, because like the top 8 teams are in the top 8. You're basically just battling for your just last place. So by having it reward different like tiers, so like 7 and 8 you don't want to be in, even though you're making the champs, like you have all these storylines for the next event, which they really haven't hammered on too much like lately. They could have had a lot of storylines. Maybe they're waiting for like the next 2 weeks to do it, but you have a lot more storylines going into the end of the year, which is that could also be a plus into like getting more viewership at the end of the year.
That's a very good point. I think that they don't talk about that as much as maybe I'd like, because the battle for the 2nd seed is very important. They do mention it. It's maybe I have the stream muted a lot, to be honest, between the matches. But the battle for 6th is obviously massive as well, and that's certainly something we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes. Also wanted to talk about pretty much the only thing that happened the previous couple of weeks has been Crimsix just going off on the main stage every single day. He went on the flank and he was talking about, or like maybe he was on Zoomer's stream, wasn't technically the flank or whatever it was at the time, but he was talking about that like Scump, when they team together, he all he pretty much did was shoot straight. He had to teach him all about like how to hold X crosses right with his teammates and all this type of stuff. And it just feels kind of strange to me because it was the end of last year that it was like, okay, are these two guys making up? They did a couple of tweets that were implying that maybe they were, squashing the beef or whatever. And Crimsix seemed to be bringing things back up. People have talked about, like Methodz has talked about, okay, like he's effectively just still salty, like still angry about how he got dropped from OpTic, and that's why he's kind of talking about this stuff. Because from my perspective, it seems like, look, Crimsix and Scump are, I'm pretty sure, the longest teaming duo in Call of Duty history. They teamed for so many years together, and obviously things didn't end particularly well anonymously. That's why we made a documentary on it. But then things seem to be getting back on the right track again, and our Crimsix is still going off about things. And I'm not really sure your perspective on this, Austin. Like, Octane came out and said in the Used podcast yesterday, like he's not sure why Crimsix keeps, going off and replying to all these people on Reddit and socials. Because if you're the best player ever and the winningest player ever, then why do you care what like people think in this sense, right? And why are you stirring the pot? Maybe it doesn't need to be done. I'm not complaining personally, but I think it's certainly a storyline.
I think he just likes stirring the pot, and he like just likes getting everyone riled up. I don't think he's like personally attacking anyone. I just think he's just, in his words, he's just trolling. I mean, I really don't think he made it really sound like Scump just didn't know how to do anything other than pull a trigger, which is kind of taking away from everything he's done in the last 10 years. That dynasty team was known for like lacking fundamentals, but it doesn't mean they don't know how to play the game. I know they've each had times where they've said they've had to like actually win the game, so maybe there's like a little bit of this fundamentals like from game to game, but from what Methodz said, where he talked about how like Scump brought a lot to the team in World War II, and like just listening to Scump talk about the game, like obviously he does know a lot about it. He's not just a slayer, so it is a little bit of anger speaking, but it's also just a lot of just trolling on his part because he just knows people will get all upset about it as soon as he talks about it.
Yeah, I think Crim, when he's confident in his game and is like performing really well, his like ability to troll and like reply to people just goes up because he just loves it. I think when he's like in a little bit of a slump, he doesn't quite go off on the timeline as much. But when he's playing well, the man's is unstoppable. To touch on what he said about Scump, I remember he said Aches is like far more superior than Scump. I think because everyone calls AW Scump like the best version of Scump, but I think over time, maybe gun skill wise, that was his best year and like movement, all that. But I think since then he's actually progressed as a player more so like communication wise and like what to do on the map rather than just being easily the best slayer in the game. And so I think that's what Krim might have been touching on. The AW Scump was just an incredible slayer, but Prime Aches had something that he brought to the team chemistry wise and as a leader that maybe that Scump didn't. But I don't know about now. Maybe this current Scump is just a lot better in different ways, and I guess we don't really get to see that side as much.
Yeah, that's true. I think one of the interesting things Krim was saying about Aches is that like Aches kind of almost inspired a generation in terms of how to lead teams. Like himself, Clayster took a lot, it seems, of what Aches how Aches was as a talisman of that complexity team into their future squads. And I think there's a lot of comparisons between Clayster and Crimsix, because when you just said that line about how Crim, when he's playing well, that's when he does his best trolling. Like Clayster's kind of the same in a way. Like when Clayster is frying, he will start a lot of he likes to tweet, let's just say, when he's playing particularly well. So that's it's something to see, right? Because of course Champs is coming up and Clayster's going for the back-to-back-to-back. Crim's going for the back-to-back. So something to keep your eyes on, most certainly. So I guess let's talk about these week's matches, because on one hand they were interesting, and on the other hand it was like, what am I even watching here? Like some of these days gotta be some of the dullest days of COD I've watched this entire season. And I mean, I agree, Austin, with what you're saying about at least there are some storylines in terms of seeding, but like some of these matches is like, what even is the point? I mean, I guess like four of these teams, the bottom four, we can probably touch on at once, because they're in a similar boat, and I feel bad for them in a way, because they're at the bottom, they've effectively got nothing to play for, and therefore they're just getting bodied every single series. I mean, some of them more than others, in fairness, and maybe they have a chance to do something this week. But I guess the first question I'll throw about these bottom four teams, if you're someone on these bottom four teams right now, are you decided, all right, look, this team's breaking apart next season. Let's just like at least look somewhat decent on the scoreboard. So maybe they decide to build around me. Because if you're like a Paris, I don't know, and you've got to build for next season, what are you doing? Well, maybe you're dropping most of your team. I don't even know what's going on over there. But you're probably maybe picking one or two to build around for next year. Maybe you keep Donny Temp, maybe you keep Scraps. I don't really know. But you're thinking about options. If you can look like the best player on the team in these matches, even if you're losing, then maybe that swings some conversation. It's certainly something that was talked about last year, that assault rifle players are playing for KD rather than the wins in some of these series towards the end of the season. So I wonder if that's something we're going to see, and maybe it's the case because these teams pretty much have nothing to play for.
It's hard to play for KD when you're getting blown out. So I mean, if they're trying to play for stats, then you kind of got to win at least some maps. So by just getting blown out 0-3, you're not gonna get good stats no matter how hard you try. So if they're playing for stats, then they're not doing a good job of that either. So that's something. But I honestly like that mindset like pisses me off so goddamn much because we have a $500,000 tournament in 3 weeks, and it's like that is more money than like MLG Anaheim's and all the other big tournaments we used to have. Like the winner gets 200K, which is like so much money. And to say like you don't like if you don't care for like if you're out of champs, so be it. Like you can still play spoiler, you can still win a major, you can still make a shit ton of money by winning that. So by just chalking the year up, like that's such a weak mentality. And I mean, if people are chalking it up now, like I guarantee you orgs are taking notes because like that is such a weak, like just terrible mindset. And if you have that, then I mean, oh, okay.
So stage
I don't
5
know.
is 500K.
Yeah.
I think all the
Oh,
majors
so
have been that, yeah.
Yeah.
they've all been the
And
same.
Champs
Oh,
is
okay,
like
all right.
2.5 mil or something, or
Yeah,
Champs isn't as
bro.
much as it was
It's the same.
last time.
The regular season prize pool is the same as the champs prize pool. So if you
Oh,
perform well in the regular season, you still have a chance to make a lot of money. And
yeah.
by winning a major, you still get to etch yourself in history. So you have a 1 in 12 chance of winning it. Like I don't know. There's no reason just to chalk it up.
Yeah, especially on land when there's like barely any precedence this year of who plays well. Like we saw Seattle come out at LAN and just be a completely different team and see like certain players like Octane completely dominate. And so if you're not willing to put in the effort, I guess like they're definitely putting in the effort, but it's like they're not going the extra mile to make sure that they're, at the top of their game. I think these bottom teams, because at this point when you're playing FaZe, if you're London, like what are the expectations? It must be really difficult. And so yeah, I feel bad for these bottom four teams, but other than the next stage, they're not going to champs. That's confirmed. And I think like at that point, what are you meant to do? You just got to keep grinding, and solidify your spot for next year. But if we're going to look at like Paris, London, LAG, and Seattle, who are the players out of those four teams that you think are safe on those teams for next year?
That's a great question. Let's dive into
None of
that.
them.
I mean, right, yeah, well, exactly, right? I don't know. I guess let's just think through these players. So if I'm London, I definitely
Paul.
want to keep Afro. I want to
And
keep
Paul.
Paul. I think I would keep those two. If I'm Paris, I don't know what the hell's going on there. If I'm LAG, like the one player that I wanted to build around has gone to Dallas. So unlucky. I don't know, put the academy team in or something. Maybe an option.
That that should happen. I think LAG should just straight up give it a go and see what happens. Like we've
I
got
don't know if
no
they
idea what to
can though. That's
expect.
the thing. Like,
And
because I mean, the Chino's the only one on like on a substitute contract, so I don't think they
Yeah.
could just switch out their entire team.
uh,
Even though the
the
academy team is
dream.
legit better right now than the pro team because they won
Yeah.
the Challenger Cup and like from what I was seeing, LAG were effectively being used as a warm-up team for the academy, and the academy was just
Yeah.
smoking them in scrims and then wanted to win the cup. It's like, what am I even watching right now? Especially given how badly they got destroyed this week. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I just like it's so frustrating watching their games because they just get destroyed every time. It's like, why am I even watching? What are they playing at? Not like, not necessarily the players individually, but just the way that team has been managed the last few seasons does not make any sense. That's Quick thoughts on
Yeah.
that. The academy idea is actually pretty good, and their academy is actually coming pretty good. So maybe you do just chalk the entire team and take some pieces from the academy, because surely that's the whole point of having an academy, I guess.
Yeah.
But little rant there.
Yeah. So what, we
I
touching
mean,
on New York, LA, or do you want to continue?
No, I'm just going to throw it to Austin real quick, and then we can keep talking
Yeah.
about what teams should, what players should stay around. Out of these four?
yeah. I mean, they unless like Mox and Exceed Neuro are on like 2-way contracts, they can't put them in sadly after the roster lock that just happened. So that actually really sucks because I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I would have loved to see Mox in for maybe like Assault just to see because Mox was performing pretty well. Neuro and Exceed have had some bright moments in the Elite and Opens. So I would have rather have seen them put in because my whole thing with LA for this stage is like, what is your goal? Like, what is your purpose? Because even though you're not going to make it the champs, you still need a purpose. Like, you can still use this next stage to either scout players, see what you have. That's what they're doing with mental. They're seeing what they have in mental. So, but I would have rather them full committed to that and like put in a whole new roster than just make that 1-for-1 change and take out arguably their best player the last two stages. So yeah, I just think they they just don't have any goals this stage other than just I guess try to win, but
Yeah.
it's a long shot.
I feel bad for Mental because he's in that same situation that Sheen was in, like coming straight into a situation where the roster isn't quite doing much at all, and so it's like, what are you gonna find from him in that stage? If he's like incredible and can completely change it, then you know he's an asset. But if he isn't that player, you don't really know what he's worth, because he's not getting given like a fair hand. It's just a little bit unfortunate for him, but.
It seems to be another one of those cases where players just get chucked into teams that are just broken, and it's like, all right, here you go, have fun, and then the team gets destroyed, and then the player doesn't look particularly good, and it's like, what do we do now? And it's tough to say whether Mental is going to be a top tier pro or whether he's not. Right, it's basically impossible to say. But in that situation within that team, you're probably not going to find out, to be honest. I mean, in fairness, Vivid in that team earlier, like they had some success. They got like pretty much all of their points this whole season from right at the start. Like I'm pretty sure stage 1 and stage 2, they went like 2 and 3. They snuck winners at the first major and beat LA Thieves winners round 1, and therefore like they got some decent points. Since then, it's been completely woeful. And I guess the other team to touch on out of the 4 down there is Seattle, because Seattle is a really interesting question to me as to which 4 of those players, let's say there's no expansion, remains on starting teams next season. Octane is a no-brainer. Whether he stays there, whether he's gone as like the wind as soon as free agency beckons, that's where my money is. Then there's Gunless. I think he 100% should still be on a pro team. Pristini, I mean, I saw some people talking about this on Reddit, the fact that if like Assault and Silly can kind of some people would argue live on their champs win for the last 3 years, then Pristini can definitely do the same. And I mean, I think he can still be a very serviceable player as well. And he's had these great moments this season. Classic hasn't been great. So that's the question, right? Like, I think there's a lot of good pieces on Seattle that other teams could have. It just has never worked as a unit this season. But I think that most of that team will probably remain Austin in the league somewhere or other.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be. I don't think any of them are probably going to be on Seattle after the season. Pretty sure Octane will probably be a free agent going somewhere else. We'll see whether they retain Gunless because Gunless just went over from Chicago. So it depends on whether they traded the contract or he signed a new deal because everything's a 1+1 right now. So if he signed a new deal, then Seattle could keep him for next year. But if they traded for his contract with Chicago, then he's probably a free agent as well. And Prestini, I do think I think he needs to find his way onto a team as a flex. Honestly, that sounds a little bit weird to say, but when talking with Alec, Prestini was always an AR before he was before Black Ops 4. Even in Black Ops 4, he was using the Methodz. So I think he needs to find his way into being an aggressive AR on a team next season. I know it will be hard to do because a lot of those flex spots are going to be taking right away. But if he can find his way into that role, I think that's where we're going to see him like hit really high levels because individually he has a lot of gun skill. He's a very selfless player, and he's a good communicator. So by doing that, I think that's the best move possible for him. I am a little bit worried for Classic. I love Nicky D, but he's had a really rough, pretty much a year. But it's kind of, I don't know. He's just had a rough year, but he's had some bright moments at times. he's definitely had like really good games in the past, so it's kind of hard to tell if this is just a bad year or he's going to bounce back next year. But yeah, that Seattle team's obviously going to have a lot of questions and a big rebuild in front of them. So it's going to be a long process where they're going to have to pretty much start from scratch again.
Yeah, it just seems like this year the ARs on Seattle have been solid, like really solid with Octane and Gunless. And then it just seems like they don't get quite enough production from the SMGs to have a lot of pressure. But that's just how it comes across. We don't know the inner details of that team and why they've actually not been working well. But yeah, it would make sense to probably rebuild around Gunless if he's still on Seattle. But yeah, not sure about the contract situation either.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, like exactly what you said, Lion. It's like, did everyone not say that before the year even began? I'm pretty sure we did. So, I mean, finally, we got a great series on Friday or whatever day it was. New York versus Thieves. We got to see LA Thieves in action, first of all. So we got to see the John iteration of the lineup. John back in action. That was great to see. And also on the New York side, we got some pretty interesting stuff as well, because you've got New York with Asim finally in Texas. And it was like, okay, how much difference is this going to make to this squad? Are they going to get back to a very high level like they were before? Like, is their hardpoint going to be as good? Can Los Angeles Thieves put up a fight? It was a crazy series from a couple of different perspectives, to be honest. Because firstly, Thieves looked great the first couple of maps. They come out look really, really good. Win the first couple. I mean, especially taking a hardpoint off. I'm not sure if it was Moscow, but it was certainly a Moscow search or whatever. I think the first move was Moscow as well. Yeah, they went up to a massive lead, I'm pretty sure. So however exactly it worked out, Thieves went up 2-0. Then Subliners brought the comeback, and then like the chaos went down in the game 5. And I guess before we talk about the result of the series and the implications of that, we got to talk about this whole disconnection stuff, because it happened not just this time, but there was also issues later in the week. And every time this happens, it frustrates me. Yes, I know that there's a video in it, there's a nice thumbnail in it, but like it's also painful to me, because like I'm like, all right, can this series just end so I can make the video go to bed? And yet it's dragging on because we're dealing with these technical issues and Hydra's running across, Texas to get to Scraps' apartment so we can set up the play. So it's like, look, maybe this isn't the CDL's fault and it's New York that should be better prepared, and whatever issues that Hydra was having with his PC or whatever, that there's nothing you can do about that. At the end of the day, these type of connection issues don't happen on LAN, first of all. There are some technical issues that happen on LAN, no doubt, but these types of issues don't tend to happen in that environment. And like, I don't know, it's just so frustrating as a viewer, because this series was great. It had some great moments. It killed the momentum, killed the vibes, and everyone's sitting there, like the casters are sitting there being like, well, this isn't fun, is it? But here we are again. It seems just to be CDL 101 at this point. I don't really watch too many other esports at this point, but like, I don't know of viewing experiences as painful as this, to be honest, Austin, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, New York had like zero luck this week too, because I think both of their matchups had like 45-minute breaks or interruptions, and then the flank that was supposed to be live in New York also couldn't get going. So that whole New York organization just had like zero luck this week. But production-wise, honestly, I think the second game versus Chicago, I think that was a game thing. I think people couldn't get on the servers, period. So I don't know if that would have been fixed on LAN or not, because of how this game is made. I don't know if there's a true LAN feature on PC. So I think it would have happened either way. But the first time around, it just sucks. I think it was something to do with Hydra's PC. So he had to go to Scraps' apartment and play from there. So the viewing experience is just shatters it when that kind of stuff happens. And it's really sad that it happened on two of the biggest matchups of the week. And it just shatters all momentum, and everyone just ruins the series. It really sucks.
Yeah, to touch on the actual match though, it was really nice to see, just for LA Thieves all week, that all year it's kind of been Kenny and another AR doing well, and then the SMGs kind of lagging behind. And so it felt good this week to see that LAT were getting essentially carried by the SMGs for the first time all year. And that was like, it's good for the team. And to see John playing that well as well, like on his comeback, he had like a did he have like a 1.3 for the second series of the week or something?
He had a really good second series, yeah.
Or 1.1. 1.1.
And Traza had like a
22 in
1.
the control.
Yeah, and
He had
so it was just
1.1. He had 1.3.
seeing them play so well early on and like looking like they're actually gelling for the first time this year. Like Kenny would say, the team wasn't chalked within a couple days. Like it's actually really good for them, and I think that we might see a different LA Thieves come major. You know.
Got to give credit to
Yeah.
Draza as well, because like this guy, man, he's been through the blender last season, this season, on the bench, back in the team. Got to run flex. Oh, okay, actually, well, maybe Kenny's a bit more of an aggro AR, so you've probably got to do a lot of the anchor and stuff on your role. Draza then gets benched again, comes back in as the effectively entry SMG and drops like a 1.25 or 1.3 his first series. It's like, wow, this guy is out of control. Like, really happy for him. I think he's going to be a staple of the league for the next few years, because if Thieves decide for whatever reason not to keep him next season, then someone's going to snatch him up. You'd be stupid not to. The way the series ended was incredible, because New York looked dead on to complete the reverse sweep. It wouldn't be the first time they've done it. Like they had, I'm pretty sure they completed another reverse sweep on Miami before. They've done like 2 reverse sweeps this season. One against Florida, one was also against Thieves. So I really thought it was going to happen again. They got 5-3 on Miami. Obviously the scoreboard's a mess, because it's like, was this 5-4 to Thieves or whatever, because New York won the first defense and the whole thing got restarted. It goes to round 11, and Thieves win it on an offense that was very, I mean, like it was actually incredible. Draza came around the corner with like half a second left. I got the final couple of kills on the bomb. But the big discussion from the Thieves guys is, and this would have been more of a talking point if they'd have lost the series, was that they should have had defense that round 11. The way the kills worked out, they would have had enough. They would have had more kills over the 10 rounds played. They should have had defense on Miami. That's a big deal. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, Austin, but I don't know, maybe 60-65% defense win, or probably something in that ballpark. Pretty big deal to start on defense. Now, because it was actually 4-5 in the game as opposed to 5-5, then the game just flipped the sides as it normally would, and they started on offense. Should have had defense. And like, to me, that's like, it might not seem like the biggest deal, but I think that's a really big deal. Like, I don't know. I feel like even though, yes, the delays it was carrying on, they should have done something where they just stopped the game and restart it for the round 11 to give the teams the correct sides. Because I think people would have been talking about this a lot more if it had gone the other way in the end. And I like, come the World Championship, Game 9, Round 11, or whatever it might be, like that's just something that you can't really afford to happen with play at this level. That's my take, Austin. I don't know if you have any different thoughts.
If this was a tournament, they would have stopped it. I feel like because there was an hour-long break and it was the last match of the night and it's a group stage match, they didn't want to stop it. That's just me guessing, though. If it was like a more of a tournament match, I guarantee they would have stopped it and then given defense, because I'm pretty sure it's around like 70% win rate for defense. And you even saw it there, was defense actually had a really strong chance to win that round. It definitely sucks for LAT, but they made the best out of it. I did feel like New York was just very underwhelming in this matchup. I feel like for LA Thieves, when you look at their vetoes, I feel like their strongest map, hardpoint wise, is Moscow. I feel like as soon as you go into that veto, you just veto Moscow. Boom, this is done. But for some reason, both teams that played LA this week just left Moscow in, and it's like very confusing, because I'm pretty sure they beat us in Moscow. They've like 50 points up the team last stage in Moscow. They beat New York in Moscow, and yet it's made it into the London series. It's like, I don't know. I just think that's really weird to let that in. And if you look at it, every single time that LA Thieves has beaten New York, Moscow Hardpoint was in it, and it was won by LA Thieves. So I think that's just a little bit of an oversight there by New York. I do think it's a little bit concerning the way that Mac played as well. He had a .76 for the week, and just for that one matchup, he was really underwhelming. He had a .76 in that one as well. I really feel like him and Clay were just losing that AR battle, which we've seen before is that their AR and Flex and that New York team has looked underwhelming, and then the next week they've rebounded completely and just like gone crazy with it. But they were definitely underwhelming in that AR battle, and I feel like that shifted. And going to Draza real quick, he was insane. We said, I think it was last week, that he had to be their number one, like their entry Slayer, their entry SMG, and he did that role, and he excelled like very well. And especially in S&D. Just in that series versus New York, he was 25-8 in the two S&D maps with a 3.13 KD. He was 4-2 in opening duels. He had 177 ADR. He had he had 1.25 kills per round. So that's just ridiculous. So yeah.
Yeah, what I said
I
about
don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, what I said about New York last week was that it seemed like missing Asim at LAN, even though it was just for like a week and a half, was actually quite a big deal. And it could throw off all their momentum. Maybe just like a few comms just get a little bit, left under the rug. And it's just like, I don't know. I think having that week off kind of just completely, I don't know, shot them in the foot. And it's not a big change. It's like maybe little details that they may have forgotten or didn't go over just swings a map a certain way. And that's how it felt. It just felt like they didn't have quite the same X factor that they had before the fourth major. And maybe they'll be able to get it back because all year New York have been able to just bounce back and suddenly have the fire and be a top team. But it's like right now there's something slightly missing. And it seems like Clay has been a little bit down on social media lately. And for him to be like the vocal leader, they need to like look to him. And if he's not quite being that, strong force within the team, is that like bringing them down a little bit? And that's what I wonder.
I think that's a
They also
concern,
kind of
right? Go on, Austin.
They also kind of got exposed with their map pool. With Hardpoint, during the run they had for the Hardpoints, they were really, really good at Garrison and APOC, and teams started figuring out if you can get one of those out, you play them on one of their weaker maps for that second one. They kind of got exposed a little bit for that weaker map pool, and they got exposed in S&D. You saw they really struggled. They went 0-3 this week in S&D, so those are huge red flags, honestly.
And that's the thing, right? Like, Claystar, I was saying it today, that usually the X factor on a team is often not like the main assault rifle. The main assault rifle kind of sits to the back, does their job. It's usually one of the maybe the second SMG or the flex or something that tends to be the important piece. But to me, like Claystar, his role on the team has such a, I guess, a trickle down effect to the rest of the roster because like none of the guys were playing well this week, and I know that they probably feed off Claystar's energy, and when he's feeling good, I'm sure the rest of the team's feeling good, and it's a big concern, right? Because there's no more time to make changes. This is basically how it is for the rest of the season, and certainly they can get back to a good level like they were at stage 3, but they're going to have to improve drastically. Because I thought let's say the trajectory of Subliners this season would be start off pretty mediocre, bring in Hydra at some point, and eventually become a contender for champs. They honestly like exceeded my expectations in the middle of the season, to be honest. And now they're falling off again, right? And if anything, OpTic are doing the other thing. So yeah, I guess I'll throw it to your Sin. You're talking about search and destroy and what could be done there.
Yeah, so one major question that probably a lot of fans have too is you still have Destiny under contract, and since he's under contract, unless it was a 14-day, you could still plug him in for S&Ds. So a real question, if their S&D woes do continue for the rest of the stages, do you start plugging him in for that S&D and kind of play him as an S&D like specialist? Because you really can't win series if you just go into that series knowing you're going to lose 2 S&Ds. And yeah, they definitely need a little bit of a spark plug. So, hey, what do you guys think about that idea? We haven't really seen that since Seattle last year for one tournament.
Sound like Ben J. Nassim right now. That's what I'll say. Any thoughts, man?
Nah.
I mean, it's
Take
tough
it.
to say, right? I mean, like, I'm just not convinced that that's a great idea. Like, I think it's better to have the existing chemistry within a lineup. Like the way Seattle tried to do it last year. I mean, that was just like legit when Enable played the hard point, they brought in Panda, and then like Enable, I don't know, like he basically just got dropped straight after that again. Like it's kind of a sign. I don't know if it's a sign of like a lack of trust within the team. That's maybe what I would say. Like, I think if you want to be a cohesive unit, you should probably have the same unit for all modes, especially maybe in 4 versus 4. In 5v5, you might be able to get away with saying, okay, like, let's just sub someone in and they can basically just go rogue and do whatever they want to be an S&D star and like switch it up and maybe catch the other team off guard. But in 4v4, I'm not sure it's the play. Not even sure it's technically still signed, so who really knows? But it's a good point, right? Like, they've obviously got a lot of problems to solve, but we've been banging on about that. We've certainly got some other series to discuss. I guess the other the final series of the week was the OpTic one, and again, issues with the servers. As we said, it might not have been on the CDL this time. Activision server issues. I mean, maybe that's not CDL, but that's just classic Call of Duty, right? Like this stuff always happens with issues right in the middle of either weekends or matches, and it's understandable. Like the people dealing with it was some sort of Warzone server issue or something, but if there was some sort of update being rolled out, there's no way those people have any idea that the CDL's on, or probably even know that they're whatever they were doing, if they were doing anything, would have had any implications like that. But still, it's just like it doesn't seem like there's ever any communication between the two parties if something's going to mess something else up. That's always how it tends to be. But anyway, OpTic, like we've got to talk about them to be honest, because they had a good week here. I mean, when they beat Paris and beat them comfortably, it was like, okay, is this just classic OpTic? They come out, they beat the bad teams, and New York obviously didn't look very good, but they're still New York, right? They've still got a lot of talent. They've still figured out before. And the fashion way OpTic beat them was pretty impressive. The Search and Destroy was bit sketchy. Still some mistakes I see from OpTic that I think they're going to get punished against the very best teams. But hardpoint control looking particularly good. Dashy was on the SMG on the 74U on that on the Express Search and Destroy to pretty good effect. So there's a few pieces right now that OpTic are looking increasingly good. Apparently they've been looking really good in practice. They're now 2-0 in this group. Should be pretty much locked up to solidify their winner's spot for the major. So things are looking up for OpTic, right? And we've got the Stage 5 major. Fans are going to be there. We've got the World Championship with fans are going to be there as well. So is this, well, we'll have to see what happens, of course. But usually OpTic start out really strong, fall off, and then, kind of tail up again towards the end of the season. That's kind of how it's been. And we might be seeing that again here. Of course, they play you guys, well, not too long from now, Austin. I think it's this week, right? On the Sunday. Yeah, cracking stuff.
Yeah. So Chicago looks so good this week, but their problem consistently all season was they look good for a weekend and then it didn't translate to the next weekend. Because if you remember, I think they looked very, very good the weekend before Standy came in. Because you know how Minnesota 6-0'd the week that Standy came in, and OpTic went 0-6. The week before that, they looked actually really good, and then that week they looked horrible. So the problem with OpTic is carrying that momentum from week to week, and I feel like this is their finally chance to do that. I feel like this is so much momentum after these two matches that it would be like inexcusable if you don't keep that up, because Formal, who arguably you could say was the weakest link of this team this past season, has a 1.42 for that week. So, and that's over 2 series against pretty good opposition. So him being hot like that, I think is huge, because he is their vocal not leader, but like he directs traffic. That's kind of how I like to put it. He directs all the traffic on the map. So him frying while doing that is very important to this team. So it finally seems like they're fixing most of their issues, and they should be able to, string this together for the entire stage.
Yeah, it is encouraging to see OpTic play this well, because they went 6-0 in map count, and I think that's probably their best start all year. I would assume so. And especially against New, I mean, we can't really take too much from the New York series, because as we touched on before, they do seem to be on a bit of a downtrend. And so I think, yeah, the Paris series was pretty obvious. Like, I think we all knew that OpTic is this amazing team when it comes to these bottom 6 to bottom 4 teams. And so that was quite, we knew that was going to happen. And then the New York series, I think, was a little bit of a surprise, just because, all year they've been struggling against those top 4 teams. But what I thought of this OpTic team is that they seem to be able to just completely blow out the smaller, not as prevalent teams, and then when it comes to the top teams, it's like something just goes wrong. And I completely forgot the thought that was going through my head. But anyway, I'll throw it to you guys, because fuck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like the thing is with OpTic is that when they win series, they just outslay the other team off the map. I've never seen a team do it like this, to be honest. Like the stats against, I'm not sure if it was New York or Paris. It might have been the New York series when Envoy had like a 1.5, almost a 1.6. I don't even know what he had. He had some insane stats. And the rest of the team, they were all positive by massively. I think Scump was 52 and 51 or something, pretty even. The rest of the guys were just massively positive. Like Dashy's dropping a really silent 1.3. And OpTic do this really often. And I don't know, maybe it's just their style or whatever, but there's a lot of times where they'll win a series and just outslate tremendously and won't win incredibly comfortably. So that's like just something to keep your eyes on, I think, because a lot of the like my fear is for OpTic really is that if they get outslayed or if they have a 1 KD, they probably just lose the series, at least in the respawns. That's not an issue that FaZe tend to have. That's certainly not an issue that Dallas that tend to have because I mean, Dallas routinely get outslayed and win series. So it's kind of the other way around for OpTic. Obviously, it looks great when they win, but when things are going to be tough, and they're certainly going to be tough against FaZe this coming week, I wonder what. I mean, really, the issue for OpTic all season against FaZe has been a lot of these search and destroys, and I wonder what we're going to see. I wonder if they chuck a Miami in there. Obviously, we'll probably get a pub about it, but we'll see what happens, right, Austin? But yeah, any thoughts on like why they like consistently outslay massively when they win, but if they don't, it can be a bit of a struggle.
It's because they're such a strong momentum team. It's just like I feel like their communication when they're down, their communication really dies down, and it just hurts them even more. So when they're on the upswing, that's why they always talk about like if they lose map 1, their map 2 is pretty much really chalked until there's a big play, like a big clutch or a big round. So that's always been like one of their issues is like keeping the momentum high. So when they go into these series and they're outselling by 80, like you can like they're having fun with it. The vibes aren't serious. They don't have to grind out wins. But the problem is when they get into holes, when they find themselves down, it's really hard for them to grind out of it. And that's why when you see them against the top teams, sometimes they struggle. But they openly like acknowledge that and they talk about it and they always say how they have to work on it. So pretty much people have to remember this is a regular season at the end of the day, and I think they're the 5th seed, so they're still in a good position. I think they're even in contention for that 2 seed still, but they just have to continue working on communication because they do say communication's an issue, and I don't think they mean like speaking to each other. I think they mean keeping the small talk up when things get tense, when things get down for them, because I feel like if you just start blocking it out and going silent, you're just going to continue the tailspin. So having not just one guy or 2 guys try to keep that vibe high and keep the momentum high, I mean that's just really important for any team. So.
Well, this week what I was gonna say when I completely lost my mind was it seemed like Envoy this week he wasn't really playing that isolated blank look for like picks role as much. He was playing more with his team, and that really showed in that game 3 control against New York when he dropped like 34 and 18 or something ridiculous. Like it seems like now they're all on the same page, and especially with Matt slaying like he does. It seems like Matt picks it up at the end of the year because he realizes, oh wait, I actually have to pull my weight like in a crazy way. And it's like every single year he finds himself at the end of the year. Like I remember World War II, he had like a 1.4 at champs. Obviously IW he had a 1.4 as well. And it's like at the end of the year, same with Black Ops 4, he had like a 1.3. And so it's great to see that he can just turn it on exactly when he needs to and bring up this team. And so with Envoy, I think that's just great that he's playing less isolated, but he's still being so impactful on the map. Maybe, we don't know if that's going to come through with these top teams when they play like FaZe or Dallas. But if he can like stay on that same trajectory and like play the way he's been playing, I think this team is looking really good.
I think they're playing better for sure. And I mean, I agree completely with what you said, especially on raid control. Like individually, the guys on OpTic are probably maybe the best for, I mean, obviously the FaZe guys, but the amount of individual plays I've seen each of those 4 players make on raid control at some point or another, like Dashi at open stairs with the Krig is a menace, Scump inside R is a menace, Envoy around like towards Garage or in Zig is just does crazy things, and Formal also has some great maps on occasion. So they're a scary team on that map, and it'll be interesting. I just wanted to touch on this FaZe series real quick because we've talked, I mean, you said it yourself, Austin, OpTic very much a momentum team. When things are looking strong for them, they ride the wave. When they win game 1 hardpoint, they ride the wave. And what I would kind of like to see in a way, because I think both of these teams should be set up, without too much difficulty for top 3 in the group. I'd love to see OpTic to lose map 1 and just see what happens. Because if OpTic win map 1, I think we have a really interesting series on our hands. But like, if OpTic lose game 1, I just really hope they don't just collapse again, because we've seen it before, and the fact of the matter is, I think they're either going to be probably 4th or 5th seed realistically, and that probably means they play whoever is 4th or 5th seed, that being New York at the major, and I'm pretty sure the winner of that plays number 1 seed, which is going to be you guys. So more than likely, OpTic are going to play FaZe in the bracket if they get through the first round match against New York, which of course they did this past weekend. So FaZe, they're probably going to play them at champs. Of course, if you want to win champs, you've got to play FaZe more than likely anyway, which means that you've got to be able to beat them. And the best time to beat them is in a best of 5. So that's what I'm really interested to see about this matchup, because if OpTic do what they did the last couple of times and things go tough for them early on, they kind of lose their mind. It almost seemed like in the previous couple of series they didn't believe they could win at times. That's what I don't want to see. And if OpTic have got over that hump, I think that that's something that can really take them far here, because that's my biggest concern. They have the talent, but when things go wrong, they can't seem to bounce back. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, on Austin.
Yeah, so that just goes back to the communication. So they have to be able to bounce back in that second S&D, which can be a problem depending on what team you are in a best of 5. Because like Team A, you have to pick map 1 and 5, and then Team B, you have to pick 2, 3, and 4. So if they are like a Team A and they get to pick that map 1 and lose it, then you go to a map 2, which is your opposition's pick. So that's kind of how like the micro game kind of on the vetoes works. So for them, they just have to make sure that they have a pocket pick and hardpoint that is a weaker map for like the stronger teams. Because if you're the lower seed, you're probably going to be the Team A. So you got to have a pocket pick that you can gain an advantage on in a best of 5 versus more of a top team. I'm not just saying against our team, but against anyone that you think is above Chicago. So then if you do, so you have a better chance of winning that, because if you go into that map, if you lose that pick and then go into map 2 on like let's say like our S&D pick and lose that, then this team has shown like a little bit of a red flag that they get into their head a little bit too much in that map 3, and their confidence gets way too low, and so they just have to find ways to not put themselves in an early hole early in the series.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Fair play. I mean, the OpTic topic, there was quite a lot of clips coming out right now of the OpTic guys playing Valorant, which is I thought this was an interesting discussion, because usually at this point in the season with champs on the horizon, players in past seasons have pretty much just been grinding COD. Now, not to say that obviously you need some time off to play other things, and that's certainly something that's healthy, right? Rather than just grinding COD 16 hours a day, like, I don't know, eating for the other one and then go to sleep or whatever. Like, that's probably not the healthiest way to live your life. You got to exercise, you got to keep up with family and friends, you got to drink water, all this type of good stuff. Got to get some sun. At the same time though, it's a little bit strange, because Envoy was talking on OpTic podcast, something or other, a little bit ago, that no one really likes this game right now. No one's trying to play 8s and hop on that. People just get their scrims on, they play it, they head off. And it's like, people are talking about, is it a bad sign for this game specifically? Because personally, I don't think this game is that bad. I actually think it's pretty good, or I kind of like it. Most people don't share that opinion, which is that's perfectly fine. People can feel free to disagree. But at the end of the day, Champs is around the corner. I thought players would be playing the game a lot more now than they are. Like, you've got the entire off season to do whatever you want. This is like the big one coming up soon. The fact that players don't seem to be doing that is a little bit concerning. Also, maybe just concerning for the future of COD. I don't know, right? Like, if COD's just this boring, like the pros don't actually enjoy scrimming on it. They don't really enjoy playing. They don't like, let's say maybe you'd play scrims one day and then you might hop your tourney into, or hop your team into some sort of S&D chal, or something like that. Put up a load of money, or hop into a tournament, S&D type tourney. That's what people maybe used to do back in the day. Doesn't really seem to happen now. Maybe the teams that are doing that will have some advantage at champs, or do you just think that's the direction that some of the COD pros are going? Is that like, scrimming day in, day out, especially with how tedious this season has been, has got somewhat tedious, and therefore it's fallen off to some degree, and the content obviously isn't as ideal for us as fans as well, Austin.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna be a little bit real here. I don't see an issue with them playing Valorant at all, honestly, because this season has been going on for 6 or 7 months, and during the regular season, this past week actually, or the week before, like the week we had off, was the first break we've had in 7 months. So these guys have been doing 2 scrims a day, probably 6 to 7 days a week, plus VOD, plus S&D after, and then prepping for matches, warming up other teams, traveling, doing content for pretty much 6 to 7 months straight. So I would actually want my team to take like a time like that and play something that makes them happy, because one, you're not getting burnt out. and which makes your practice horrible. So if you're coming in the practice salty, not 100%, you're not communicating correctly, like you should be. The best way to play in this game is practice the same way you're going to translate to your matches. So like we always try to have our guys communicate and have the same, not less energy, not more energy, the same energy as match days. So like you can translate the communication, like the communication doesn't get hectic. So by them like playing Valorant and getting, stress off and not worrying about this game at night, I would actually be kind of happy about that if their practice is going well, because then they're not burning themselves out on this game. And two, on the eights, personally, I feel like eights died for another reason. I don't feel like eights died because players don't like this game. Honestly, I feel like when there is a league play, eights are gonna fall off just because it's easier to get into a league play match and do the same exact thing as you would in eights. Like eights is just shooting your gun, and half the time the players are just bullshitting and they're not even trying, and they're just trying to put up numbers. They're trying to shoot against good opponents. And in all honesty, eights just pretty much just promote bad tendencies, and then you get into these bad tendencies. It's really hard to break out of. But the same thing can happen in league play. But eights, I don't know. I wouldn't put lack of motivation on the reason that eights is dying. I just think players are playing 6 to 7 hours a day in practice and then doing league play, which could be off stream. Some people don't know how many hours that like Celium plays on league play, and players are just getting burnt out with this long season. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you find it an issue with it, Lion?
Well, what I think is that I think the introduction of the CDL and like the seriousness put on practice and like more structured coaching staffs, like it's put more emphasis on practice and like actually being together as a team. And I agree with you saying that eights bring bad tendencies because all it is just gunning. And but I don't want us to like take years of COD for granted, because this year, even though right now we're kind of bored of the game, I feel like this is like actually an up year for COD rather than looking back last year, looking at COD World War II. Like those are the years we look back and we're like, all right, those years weren't that good. But we look back at like Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, even IW, Advanced Warfare now, and go, damn, those CODs were actually fun. But now we can't play them because no one plays them. But it's like we're going to look back on this year, probably in 2 years' time, and be like, actually, that was quite a fun year of COD. And I've been like thinking this way for a while now. It's just we need to stop like giving these companies shit for not making good CODs when in reality we love them after the fact. And I think that's the case with this year. But you're right. I think eights has nothing to do with the popularity of COD or whatever. It's just the team's just probably focusing more on practicing as a team rather than running around, and league play obviously. So
I mean, that's the COD cycle, right? Like, but I agree exactly. I enjoy playing this game myself personally, and it's at that point of the year where everyone hates the current game and they're looking forward to the next one. Like, it's always how it goes. But I feel like this game in future years, people will look back on. They'll look at like how good the maps we have for competitive, because a lot of Black Ops 2 ones came back. Like even though the gun balance maybe wasn't great, only really a 2-gun meta, it was pretty interesting. There's been some good tournament moments as well. It's just maybe not quite as exciting as it could have been. Like if FaZe weren't so dominant, then it probably would be more exciting, to be honest. But that is a story for another day. Maybe we can touch on that actually, because we've got a couple of other interesting topics to touch on. I think that what you alluded to there, Lion, was very prescient, really, because we've heard some talk about what the next COD could be like, and it's no surprise, really, we're hearing talk about, okay, the slide cancel is going to be back, we've got tactical sprint back, the gunplay and the movement's going to be pretty similar to Modern Warfare. To me, it's maybe unfortunate, but it's no surprise, right? They wanted to integrate perfectly with Warzone. That's the goal. It's on the Modern Warfare engine. So this is the thing, right? We might have a Call of Duty next year, which is very, very similar indeed to what we played last year, Modern Warfare, with stuff like the tactical sprint. I didn't like the movement on that game particularly, but I think a lot of people thought it was really smooth, and a lot of pros, I think, kind of liked it looking back and enjoy playing Warzone and stuff. So maybe not the end of the world. We don't obviously know how the game's going to be or anything, but it just seems to me that, all right, we've got World War II Vanguard coming out this year, which is potentially going to be in a very much a Modern Warfare-esque style, however they decide to go down that route. And then the year after that, we've got Infinity Wars coming out with what you can only assume is going to be a Modern Warfare-esque sequel. So we're probably in a very similar boat for competitive as we were last year for the next couple of years. So that's kind of why I'm like, we should make the most of a Treyarch COD while we have it. I guess I'll go to Austin first. While you recover your senses.
Yeah, I really hope we don't have tax print, man. Tax print is horrible. I'm less worried about tax print though, as I am about the field upgrades.
Oh yeah,
I
didn't even mention that.
I really hate field upgrades, even in this game. I hate them so much. I know they're just trying to create another piece of utility because you have like your nades, your tacticals, and then your utility, which is supposed to be like trophy systems. But usually they'll make like 7 things that are supposed to be a field upgrade, and 6 of them are just trash, and we can't use them in competitive. So it pretty much ruins the field upgrades on our side. 2 part of the field upgrades, probably going to be Dead Silence again, and I really disliked the way that Dead Silence was. I guess it would have been better if you just had 1 Dead Silence per round and not on a timer. I didn't like the timer aspect of it at all.
Awful.
I feel like if you just have one at the beginning of the round, then you can burn it whenever you want to. I guess maybe that would make it a little bit better.
It'd be like
yeah, Exo Mute baby.
Yeah. Because I feel like that takes the randomness out of it. Because when you're sitting there waiting, like half the rounds, you'd just be sitting there in a corner, just be like, okay, guys, 20 more %, and I have my Dead Silence. 20 seconds. You guys, wait. Okay, now we can do something. It's like it's so dumb. Like I don't know. That's not the kind of S&D I want to watch at all. So
it's strategic. It's tactical. Come on, Austin.
It's a tactical rad, man.
It is. I love tactical sprint.
The tactical sprint. The only thing with tactical sprint is I'm worried that it's going to break cameras again. Which I know people are probably like, oh wow, it's weird coming from Atlanta side, but like the camera breakage and all that it just doesn't make for a good game. And maybe I don't mind the bunny hops, but like I just hope the movement. I just hope it's not like broken right off the bat, and I definitely hope we don't have doors.
I mentioned doors.
Thoughts, didn't even think about that.
Bro, fuck them doors.
My thoughts is that this COD was probably made during the early days of Modern Warfare, before people really had, issues with the game. And so if it's a field upgrade again and we have to bloody use a Dead Silence 1 every 3 rounds and it's not a perk, like obviously for competitive that's not the way, but it might be because for the first time they're actually switching the engine for Warzone to Vanguard, and maybe it's like a new map, like a World War II-esque Warzone map and stuff like that. And so it's probably where they're headed because they see the success of Warzone. And so it's like, all right, time to move it to a new game, keep the mechanics somewhat similar, do the same stuff, but then kind of forget about competitive again. And that would be absolutely detrimental for us. Like, if we get another competitive COD that is catered towards Warzone and like the fans of Warzone, I mean, fair play, because obviously that's the most successful thing right now and it's helping COD, but it's just like, for us, it's not ideal at all because they'll probably forget League play. Who knows?
Actually, I have a bit more faith in that this time because it's Sledgehammer. So I do.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying before, Austin, about like the players will hop into League play instead of playing 8s and such. What was so good about World War II League play was that the upper echelons, like when you got towards like 3,000 elo, if you headed into those lobbies, it was just pros and like top AMs. That was it. And it was great because like I used to watch Callum Swanee. He would hop on the stream and he'd just be playing against pros, and it was effectively 8 lobbies in League play. That was great. It was great content. People loved watching it. And that was the World War II days. I think that's the way to go, to be honest, because then pros. Because streaming League play right now is like, there's not really any content to be made in League play because you're just destroying like pub kids in effect if you're a pro level. Whereas like, I don't know, it's tough to say, but it's weird because we always talk about the wish list. Like, what's the wish list for the new COD? And every year we say, okay, give us some good maps and give us League play. It's like, it should be on a wish list, right? Maybe it should just be a guarantee. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. The fact of the matter is, Modern Warfare was casual players generally love that game. So I get why this is the route they're going to go down. Just hopefully they can make the best out of it for competitive because they did a relatively good job last time. Quickly, I'll say questions in the chat. We'll go to a few of those in a couple of seconds. Unless you had anything else to add, Austin, I wanted to go on to the final topic I was going to talk about, which is what X had to say on you guys over at FaZe, which I thought was kind of entertaining. Certainly worthy of discussion, right? Saying that, like, look, FaZe, they're too good. The team shouldn't be allowed to form. The salary cap should break it up. But then people are saying, look, the salary cap is a soft salary cap anyway. I'm sure a lot of the players on FaZe would turn down, let's say like a new all comes in and says, all right, Sib, I'll pay you $1 million. He's probably going to be like, all right, well, who am I playing with? Why would I want to play with that team when I can just play with my current team, win a load of prize money, have a good time doing it, and become one of the best players ever? So I'm not really sure if the salary cap is ever going to cause an issue. And well, probably means this team's not breaking up anytime soon, and well, it shouldn't have to, right?
Yeah, this Aches topic is kind of, it's weird without me like exposing too much here. So I'll start off by saying Ben wasn't capping, basically, on that, and that
The soft cap.
people people just don't know like everyone's motives, so they don't really know what everyone like. A lot of people just don't know what they're talking about. Like, I guarantee you, I can promise you, all 4 of our guys would take a pay cut in a heartbeat to stay together, even if there was a salary cap. Because the way you got to think about it is, we're not even at the goddamn like. Let's say like you take the salary cap, you divide it by 4, whatever, right? And then you add in all of the prize money that you can win in a year. So you add up all the majors, you add up the like what we can make at champs. That's like the max salary you could get on a team technically. And if your objectives in making a team is to be happy, one, to be happy with the people that you're teaming with, under the org you have, like everyone that's involved in the day-to-day, and 2, like you would rather win, then like the salary cap's not going to stop anything, right? Unless people are fueled by money or other things, right? So the 4 guys that we have, like, it's actually so unique that these guys don't care about that. They literally just want to win. Like, we get on after tournaments, and they already have like 10 things they want to go over and start working on, and they literally don't care about these like winning these majors. They want to win playoffs. They want to keep winning, and they want to play together because it makes them happy. So a salary cap, like what Aches was saying, it just doesn't come into effect, honestly. These guys would take a cut and just base salary in a heartbeat. And a weird thing that he said 16 teams would actually make it harder, like make our team non-existent. I really don't know what he meant by that, because what is it? There's 4 extra. Does he mean by like there's 4 extra teams that are bidding on the players? But
Maybe,
again,
yeah.
that's like saying like then like that's like saying like one of our players would just want to go play with this like because you got to think about it. If you offer a bag to one of these players, like it's going to be so hard to fill out the rest of the roster. So like, what are you going to tell them? Here's a bag of money, and then you can play with like B tier players, and then you're not going to win, and then you're going to get crucified by the media, and then you're not going to be happy with the people you're playing with. You're not winning tournaments, so like, what is the real plus there? Money? You get money. You get a base salary. Like, cool, I guess. So, I don't know. There's a lot of talent in this league, and there's a lot of players that work really hard, and like by saying like we shouldn't exist and how did this happen? I mean, you could easily make teams right now, and you could be busting your ass and beat our team. Like we're not some invincibles. Like I don't know. I just feel like people just use it as a cop out that it's like, I don't know, that it's impossible to beat us. But that's why like I love Crims. I say delusion, but I actually love Crimsix's mentality, because he thinks like he could beat anybody. He thinks everyone else sucks. He thinks his team is the best, and like that rubs onto his teammates, which give them confidence. And it's like it's actually really important to have that. So I don't know. I think this whole topic is kind of dumb, because you don't know what players' motives are, and you don't know like the inner workings of it. And a lot of these guys don't even know who has the most salary in terms of the league. So it's kind of funny hearing people talk about it when you don't have like all the details from, and then you look at it the inside and you're just kind of just giggle at it.
Yeah, so there isn't a salary cap, eh?
There is. It's supposed to, I think it's 1.25 million. And the way the cap works is it's a soft cap. So I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's like if you spend every dollar you spend over the cap, you get charged a tax, like a luxury tax. It's the same way the MLB works, I believe.
Right. Well, so what was Ake saying? Like there should be like a lower salary cap.
I think
he was
kind of
saying
saying that like if new teams were to come in, they could just like say, all right, we're gonna pay like this and just for like I don't know, offer Simp like a mil, and then he's just gonna leave and join whatever crap team, and we'll pay the others like 50k. Like I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly what he was implying, but I think he was. I don't know. It's just one of those things, right? Like FaZe are obviously beatable. You've got to have the mindset that you can beat them because these great teams eventually they'll fall off and break up. That's how it goes. At some point or another. So whether that be 5 years, 10 years down the line, who even knows, right? But
yeah. Well, we do need 4 more teams regardless, just so that playoffs
that's very
is,
true.
you know.
100%. So you have 16. You can have CWL style tournaments.
Oh,
That's what we really need. We just need
Yeah.
those back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love it so
Well,
much.
yeah.
Well,
I
let's
don't have
take a
much
couple
to
of
add on
questions.
salary. But go for it. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I guess maybe we'll just each choose one. That could work. We got a few going on here. I like Joe's one. Who's your guys' favorite player throughout watching COD? It's
This year?
interesting. Well, yeah, exactly. It's kind of open ended, right? It's like favorite player, like your favorite player as like an individual, or to watch, or like what's going on there. Um, this is a good question. I may have to say. It's got to be one of the European guys. It might be on that old Millennium team. Like it's tough to pick between. Like I love Tommy. I think Tommy was such a great player. I think like awesome guy while he was around. Obviously killing it in Warzone now. I think favorite player to watch maybe Jerd. Jerd when he's on form is one of the most exciting players I think I've ever seen play COD. Swanee is just an absolute legend. I wish he was around more often. I think like Swanee might honestly get my favorite player throughout like COD history because
Dude,
just watching him
he
compete
won
was
his last
phenomenal.
tournament. He
Well,
won his last
yeah, I
ever
guess so because he
tournament.
couldn't go to champs, right? So
Yeah, he won stage 2
and like
playoffs, EU in Black Ops
yeah,
3, and
in the
then
European
left the
region.
scene.
And then he's out
Gone.
forever. I watch like all of his like Fortnite streams. Occasionally he'll stream Warzone and I'll even hop in even though I don't really watch Warzone. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Swanee.
Fair play. What about you, Austin?
Hmm. I won't go from someone from my team or any team I've like been a part of. I'll try to pick someone else. Um, honestly, from just this year, I think I would have to go with maybe Cammy right now. I really like watching Cammy from this year, like from someone that's not on our team or anyone I've coached. I really like the way that Cammy plays. He's like really aggressive. He's really confident in his gameplay right now, which when someone has that confidence, it's really fun to watch them. Historically, I definitely liked watching Karma back in the day. I used to be a big OpTic fan back during like the Dynasty days, and like Karma in like I think BO2 when he was on Envy was just a powerhouse. It was ridiculous how good that guy was. So I always like watching him and Scump, even in like wow, I'm gonna really age myself here, but in Black Ops, I used to love watching Scump on Leverage. That was always my favorite too. Yeah.
Holy
That's
heck, mate.
OG actually watching that stuff live. That is impressive.
Goodness. I never
Yeah.
even
That was-
saw that. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
If
Respect.
I was gonna do throughout history, it's probably formal. Like especially jetpack formal. Like
Mhm.
I honestly think player wise through eras, jetpack formal was the most dominant COD player there's been. Maybe next to like current simp. Like that man, even AW, bro, we posted highlights yesterday on the page, and like his sniper race on
Oh man.
Detroit. Oh goodness, mate!
Disgusting.
Like him with a sniper during those days, there was no one like on his level. If we're talking now, like this year, it's probably Shotzi just because of his movement and like watching from his POV, it just looks different to other players. Just like the slide cancels don't they look natural. Like he's just he's done it so many times that it just like flows his gameplay. So I think yeah, formal through history, Shotzi this year for sure. And he's still been like almost as dominant as last year as well, which I don't think many people expected.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of
that's a
people
fair
didn't.
point. All right.
Nice.
Austin, you're up if you wanna pick one.
All right. What questions do we have here?
It's a fair
Let's
few a while
see.
ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna scroll up, see
If
if
we
I can
miss any
find
guys,
some.
like it's all good. I mean, we'll probably just do a couple and then I mean feel free head back next week. You could drop them in the Breaking Point Discord. Don't forget to follow the stream, all that good stuff. Um our first Warzone game was a Breaking Point video. God, you don't want to see it, I'm sure. But
There's one that says. Actually,
Oh,
what was one that was just put in?
I've got one now.
If you can go pro in any COD title that you
That's
could
it.
choose.
That's it.
Okay, we'll both do it then.
Yeah.
last question to
Honestly,
finish off will be this one then.
AW. I bet you're gonna say
Really?
AW. No, you're not gonna. I think AW. AW. I loved it because that was the first year Uplink was there, and honestly, I liked the exo suit. You had like the trophy, the dead silence, and all that. And the nades that you would throw, you could time when they would blow up and stuff. And I actually loved almost all the maps in AW. So AW, and then a close second is Ghosts. I loved
Ooh,
Ghosts. Even though
very
that game was
interesting.
broken as hell, Ghost S&D was prime.
Fair. Wait, yeah, Ghost S&D. That's still like the game players go back and play for like eights and stuff during the
Oh
off
man,
season.
Omar knows
For
all about that
me,
one.
for me, it's definitely Black Ops 3. Like that was. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but that is my favorite COD of all time. Like I played Black Ops 2 a lot, and that's probably second, and then AW third. But Black Ops 3, and the way that the CWL was made as well, where it was region based, and so it was like all the best ANZ teams play each other, all the best EU teams, and all the best NA. And then for champs at the end of the year when they came together, like it was this big celebration of Call of Duty with all these different regions, and you didn't know who was on top because the whole year it was online, and like coming together for that big final tournament was so awesome. And like watching Mind Freak play against like Millennium at Crown, like it was just a lot of hype moments in that year that I think people forget about. And even specialists in that game were a bit broken, but they were enjoyable and they were tactical, and you could use them to really swing games. So for me, yeah, it's Black Ops 3 because even SND Chows in that game were going off. Like Courage's $1 wages he used to stream, stuff like that. Like it was
That's
really
great.
like the content, Black Ops 3 was really good.
Bot World Championship.
Ah,
I'm
the
impressed with you
Bot
there,
World
man.
League.
Yeah,
Bot
Bot
World
World
League.
League.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
the scene was
mean,
popping.
yeah, because I'm on exactly the same wavelength. Like for me, it's no question at all. It's Black Ops 3. Like not only was it like the COD I was best at, but it was also such a great time for COD. The unfortunate thing was, looking back, if I was like to be a pro in that game, was that there just wasn't that many events, right? Like we could have done with like two more events early in the season because there really wasn't many events till towards the end because of the way the whole league worked, you know, Lion?
With that though, it's because early on, remember the controller issues because the move to PlayStation 4. And so
Oh
like the
yeah, the South Carolina event and stuff.
tournaments early on in the year had all that lag in the controllers, and then they brought in Cronus's, and there was still delay, and that's why that year was a little bit strange because there were a lot of variables. Like that's why online COD that year was actually like decent because people had their proper monitors, proper controllers that worked, and like when it came to LAN, was just a bit off.
I
Yeah, I
got one
mean,
more.
go on.
Do you guys think franchising would have been better if it followed the LOL model but based in Dallas instead of city based like now from Frothy Siggy? A
Oh
good
Never
man.
one.
watched, never watched League,
So
so I
like
don't know.
League, they have the original team org names, right? Like it's franchised, but they keep their original org name. I think that's correct. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
Like
but they
my
all play
take
in one
is,
central location. So
oh,
they play
interesting.
like in like they all go to LA and play in the venue that Riot has there.
All I'll say is I think that Riot like do such a great job with their esports scenes that whatever they're doing is probably a bloody good idea. So like I'll say, yeah, I'm down. Because at the end of the day, we do thankfully now have OpTic Chicago, and I think some of these teams, like I will say it, teams like Minnesota, teams like New York, I think are getting there with actually building a pretty good, strong local community fan base. And if COD wants to be like a massive thing in like 10, 15, 20 years time, it's probably going to be pretty interesting if I'm like, if I'm from London or something, or it probably makes more sense than maybe in a US state. I'm not sure it translates so well to the rest of the world. But, if I'm like a Dallas or whatever and I support the Dallas Cowboys or something, then I'm also interested in maybe what my local state COD team happens to be. And maybe that makes a difference. So, at the end of the day, I think that the whole like franchising thing, it's like, all right, this works in sports. Let's just try it in esports and hopefully it'll work. And it kind of works. But I think that maybe esports wise, in terms of being like a global league, the LOL model is more like esports. Is more esports first in terms of where we've been for the last several years. But in terms of monetization, I understand what they're going for, and I think it has its benefits. So it's tough to say.
I think they just have to tweak this model a little bit. Like I don't mind the city names, but what you're saying for OpTic Siggy with the LOL thing, I do think if we go to more of a format where you go to kind of like in Black Ops 4 where you would go to Columbus for 2 weeks and then play your league matches and then you'd have tournaments. I do think if we have a studio in Texas, somewhere that's close to where all the players are right now, so they don't have to travel as much, play those like league matches there. So then on LAN you don't have to travel, and then have a tournament in like one of the franchise cities. I think that is probably the best we can do. Personally, I think that would be really good. I do think this might be a little bit of a hot take too. I do think we should start shying away from stadiums. Honestly, I feel like our esport. I feel like you should be going to like concert halls or like smaller venues so you can pack a lot. Like once COVID's over, so you can pack a lot of people in, so it's louder, it looks full, and instead of having like the stadiums like I don't know if you remember Minnesota Rockers launch weekend.
Right? Yeah.
There was actually a ton of people there, but it looked so empty because it was such a big venue. So I do feel like if we go to more like a studio format for like the league matches, and then have like a studio for the tournaments where you can fit like 2 to 3 people and just really pack it in there, you're gonna have a really loud experience, kind of like how London was. CWO London, I feel like that was only like 3,000 or 4,000 people. I feel like that's like what we should be like striving for in the next like 2 years.
I
have
love
it like
that.
that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they had the copper box separated into 2 sides, and one side was like all the open bracket, and then Bravo Charlie Delta Station, and on the other side you just had the main stage, and then all the crowd up to the rafters, which is a great way of doing it, to be honest.
I feel like that's the model we have to go to succeed as a league, and also like look better in the eyes of potential like other esport viewers that are first coming in. You don't want it to be like empty, quiet, look bad.
Yeah. Well, wow.
Any thoughts, Line, to finish out the show? I mean, we've had a cracker, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm just vibing, mate. I'm chilling here. I think that does it.
Getting ready for the week. I mean, how you feeling, Austin? Confident against OpTic?
It's gonna be a battle. I feel like this is gonna be like one of those. The thing with this league is by stage 5, the top teams should be hitting like the best form going in the champ. Like theoretically, this should be the best that both of our teams will look this year up until champs. So this should be like actually like one of those like bloodbath series where it should go like really back and forth. So it's gonna be really exciting either way.
Cracking stuff. Well, that, I suppose, will just about do it. Thanks all for tuning in live. Make sure to follow the stream if you have not already. We'll be back here this time next week for the same old deal. This will be up on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of you guys are watching it over there, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.